Welcome to the University of the Philippines, Diliman, College of Arts and Letters, Bahaginan. Launched in 2016, Bahaginan, or Sharing, is the college's research dissemination platform. In response to the many challenges of theater artists and educators in the time of the pandemic, the Department of Speech Communication and Theater Arts, in cooperation with the Office for Initiatives in Culture and the Arts, organized Emergency Theater and Performance. Through these brown bag sessions, theater practitioners and educators will share their experiences and insights on performance making amidst the lockdown and health crisis. The sessions will run from October 9 to November 25. I wish to thank our speakers for sharing their precious time with us. No online module can match their experiences in the theater. So join us as we learn, be enlightened and inspired in the wonderful world of theater and performance. And as we say in the theater when we welcome our audience, enjoy the show!
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Narito tayo ngayon sa panibagong session ng Emergency Theater and Performance. Ito ay parte ng brown bag sessions na inorganisa ng mga guro ng Departamento ng Speech Comment Theater Arts. Nais naming magpasalamat sa Department of Speech Comment Theater Arts, College of Arts and Letters at lalong-lalo na sa OICA. Sa araw na ito, meron tayong panauhin at resource speaker na nais kong i-welcome si Ms Chinajas. Si Ms Chinajas ay isang educator, theater practitioner, and writer. Siya ay nag-graduate ng BA Theater Arts dito mismo sa University of the Philippines kung saan nag-major siya sa playwriting. She recently earned her master's degree in education with a major in language and literacy education in 2018 at the UP Open University. She has been teaching language and literature and practicing theater arts for almost 15 years, both locally and internationally. She served as the resident stage manager of Tanghalang Pilipino at the Cultural Center of the Philippines for 5 years. This opened opportunities for her to work with world-renowned directors, performers, and theater practitioners in different theater companies like Atlantis, PETA, Bulaang UP, Philippine Ballet Theater, and Broadway Asia. At ngayon, i-welcome na natin si Ms Chinajas na pag-uusapan ng critical planning and decision-making to a safe pandemic response for theater. Hi, Chynna.
Hi! Hello sa inyong lahat. Thank you, Ms. Isa. Like what Ms. Isa said, I have been a teacher and a theater practitioner since 2001. And then I left the Philippines in 2009 to teach overseas. And now I am in Virginia, USA, and this is my 4th home. So good evening sa akin at good morning sa inyong lahat. Good evening. So today we are going to talk about critical planning and decision making to a safe pandemic response for theater. I really love this topic and I'm personally invested on this. I really think that this is a crucial and controversial topic because it forces us to be morally, socially, culturally, and emotionally upright in our artistic values and aesthetic needs as artists. As much as possible, I would like for us to be collaborative and inclusive in our discussion. There are questions that I'll be throwing at you, and I hope that you'll be able to answer them as honestly as possible. And please don't hesitate to ask, and ask, because this is an opportunity for us to have a very collaborative discussion. Okay? So let's move on. So for our learning targets today, I hope that you students will be able to think critically of the challenges of what live performances are facing at the time of a pandemic crisis. Number 2 is to reflect actively on the safety guidelines proposed by existing theater companies and develop their perspective on safe reopening. So we will be using Hale Hale Center for Performing Arts safety guidelines. They are the ones who drafted the safety guidelines for a safe opening for theater. And I hope that we will be able to reflect on it actively. And then the last one would be to propose possible safety guidelines in the event of reopening live performances relevant to the current state of theater in the Philippines. All right. So just a quick check-in. If you are in my PowerPoint presentation, you can open it and there is a Padlet activity for you. What I would like for you to be able to reflect on your life during the pre-pandemic 2019 and when pandemic hit in 2020, and what do you think your life would be like beyond pandemic? So in this Padlet link, I would like for you to choose three words and one image that would describe an aspect in your life in the three stages stated. Reflect on the changes and the transformation. It can be changes and transformation in your personal, in your social, family, academic, or professional life. Okay? So I will be giving you maybe 5 minutes to answer this Padlet. Now you might ask, how was I able to add the photo here? So let me just give you a quick tutorial. So when you see the plus sign, just click it, and then there will be a box that will appear here. You can type the three words that would describe your life stages, and then click this globe icon, and then you would like to type any word here, and then there's image here. Click the image and you will be able to add it in the Padlet. Okay, so I'm gonna give you maybe 5 minutes to answer this. I would like to see how your life is and how has it affected you. How has this pandemic affected you? Ayan. I'm really happy to see responses on the Padlet. If adding a photo is quite challenging for you, okay lang yan. Just type 3 words that would describe your pre-pandemic, pandemic, and beyond pandemic life.
Hi, China. I just wanted to inform the students that they'd find the link to your Padlet at the chat box. If they're having
Thank
difficulties,
you.
please click on the link in your chat box. Thanks.
Tsaka, pwede din itong Tagalog. Pwede rin sa inyong native na lengguwahe. Okay lang sa akin kung anumang lengguwahe komportable kayo gamitin.
Hello po. Pwede pong
Hello,
paulit ng
hello.
kasi sobrang lakas po ng ulan, hindi ko narinig.
Anong gusto mong ulitin? Yung link for the Padlet? Okay. So yung direction Okay. So ito, yung slide, just for a quick check-in, what has been your life during your pre-pandemic pandemic, and beyond pandemic. I would like for you to choose 3 words that would describe your life in those stages. So, kung
Po, thank you po.
kung makikita mo yung chat box, I think they have listed there the link to the Padlet. So, click mo lang yung link na yon, or if open yung PowerPoint presentation ko in your device, pwede mo ring i-click tong link mismo kasi naka-hyperlink na siya. And it will direct
Thank
you to this Padlet.
Salamat po.
Okay, pwedeng Tagalog, pwedeng mother tongue, pwedeng Taglish, pwedeng full English, or any language na komportable kayo. Okay, last 1 minute. Ay, gusto ko tong word na to, Vinzar. Ano kaya itong word na ito? Ay, ang ganda ng image na to. Gusto ko to. Okay. Last 10 seconds. Kung sakali na nag-respond pa rin kayo, keep responding. That's fine. But just for the sake of time, we will continue discussing this. I will be asking some of you, although your answers had intrigued me a lot, just for the sake of time, may ilan lang ako na tatawagin. Hopefully, or if you want to volunteer to share how's your life been like, please do. Okay? So for me, kung nakikita nyo tong sample ko, pre-pandemic, before I came here to Virginia, I was working as a teacher and head of department in an international school in Singapore, and my life has been so stressful. It has been exhausting. Now, when pandemic hit my life, I found a little bit bliss. I was really peaceful kasi yung workload na minimize siya, and at the same time nagkaroon ako ng time for myself. I really felt that I began to do some self-care na my life has been wanting to and screaming for before pandemic hit. However, now, and I hope that when we surpass this pandemic, I will find that balance. Na pag bumalik na ulit ako sa dating grind, I hope that I will be able to still care for myself, still give time for my family and friends, because those are the things that I have forgotten when I was leading a life before the pandemic hit. Okay? So for the others, do I have a volunteer? If you want to volunteer, please type in the chat box so I can call out your name, or I can call out somebody. Anyone who wants to volunteer? Sige. I will try to call Anne kasi gusto ko yung photo mo. Anne, the one who did this, changed new reflection. Anne, are you there?
Hello po.
Hello, Anne. Can you give us kind of a brief background? Why did you respond change, new, and reflection?
Because I think that yung whole pandemic experience ko po revolve around yung change, and change could be either good and bad. So yun po, umikot siya sa pagiging loss and pagiging parang pagiging bago. Yun na yun.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anne. Siguro isa pa before we move on. Ay, gusto ko rin to, si pre-pandemic na flexibility at its finest. Pero anonymous siya. Anyone who answered this? Hello,
Hello po,
hello.
ma'am. Good
Hi.
morning.
Good
So,
morning.
ayan po, bakit po flexibility at its finest? Kasi po nung pre-pandemic, we can do anything that we want. Nung nagkaroon po ng pandemic, naging challenging po ang lahat and naging limited po yung access natin in making productions and creation. Tapos, beyond pandemic, still unsure kung ano po ang mangyayari sa buhay natin. Pero lahat po ng nalikom natin na experience, pwede nating making will or determination in establishing new creation. Kaya po may courageous yun. Yun po.
Ang ganda-ganda ng sinabi mo. And I think I will tie it up to our topic today. Yung sinabi mo na lahat ng nalikom natin ngayon will help us to become courageous in creating something new. I really like that point of view because that's what this whole discussion will be about. We are going to create something out of what is happening in the world and in our lives right now. It might not be something that we don't like at the present, but we will use that as a motivation to do something good so that we can surpass this challenge that's given to us. So let us
Yes
just go
po.
back. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you
So
po,
let us just go
ma'am.
to the presentation, ano? So we know that we are at the state of emergency. And with that saying, there is a state of urgency. So why do we say that we are at a state of emergency and state of urgency? What is emergent and what is urgent? From the word emergency, which is to begin something or coming to being, and the word urgency, which means a swift action, we have to create something and it has to be fast. It has to be now. It has to be in the near future. It has to happen sooner than later. So I hope that after this discussion, you are going to think of something that you would like to create out of this pandemic that you think what the world or what in Philippine context, what does Philippine theater needs right now? And I also believe that you will have a proposal or a project that's going to be tied up in this discussion. So I hope that you bear that in mind to create something that is that we need sooner than later. All right. Okay, so let us go through understanding the basics. We know what is happening right now. We know that there is a pandemic crisis. We know that there is no vaccine. We know that there is no solution yet. Okay? That is the reason why there's no live rehearsals, there's no performances that are ongoing. The industry, entertainment and theater industry, art industry, artists are struggling even more. And practitioners in the academy are even affected, like you guys. I know how hard it is to study theater that is so tangible and it's very kinesthetic. It's motion driven, and you can't do something about it because there is a pandemic that's ongoing. So we know our why. But who will be the one to kind of draft this safety guideline to give this safe pandemic response? Who will be the ones to lead that? Now, it is very interesting because I attended a webinar of Stage Managers Association of Community Theaters in America. And it's very interesting to note that the production managers and the stage managers took the opportunity took the responsibility to draft a safety guideline um, to for a safe pandemic response for theater. Now, if we are going to put this in Philippine context, who are we going to consult? Because the one that we are using right now as reference, they have consulted federal government, um, their own state policies. Tayo, in the Philippines, sino ang kukonsultahin natin? Kung ang mga PM at SM ang gagawa ng hakbang para magkaroon ng safe pandemic response, sino ang pwede natin konsultahin? Meron bang local agencies? May Department of Health ba? Department of Labor and Employment? Theater experts, history experts, medical experts? Sino ang pwede nating lapitan? Kahit na mga PM at SM ang magsisimula nito kung sakasakali sa Pilipinas, hindi naman pwede na magre-rely lang tayo sa experiential at background knowledge. Kailangan meron tayong research. Okay? Ngayon, yung how. This is our goal. The goal of this discussion, the long-term project. In the event of phase 3, or sa panahon na, sige, magkaroon ng reopening, how do we develop a safe pandemic response practice? Ano ang pwede nating gawin para makabalik tayo ng mapayapa at safe sa teatro? Okay? Now, ang question ko sa inyo is why do you think the SMs and the PMs are the ones who are going to lead these safety guidelines? Bakit hindi company manager? Bakit hindi directors? Bakit hindi medical practitioners? Bakit SMs and PMs? So there is another Padlet activity for you, and click that link, and I think pwede rin yatang isend yan sa chat box. And then I'm gonna give you 5 minutes just for me to see why do you think, or in your opinion, why do you think SMs and PMs should be the ones to draft the safe pandemic response for live performances? Okay, so again, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to answer this Padlet link. In your opinion, why do you think the SMs and the PMs are the ones to draft the safety guidelines?
Again, the link can be found in your chat box. For the students, the link can be found in your chat box.
Yeah, just follow in the chat box, just follow the title that says Padlet 2 link. Yan, nandyan yung this Padlet that you see now on the screen. Natutuwa ako sa mga responses niyo. Okay, sa mga hindi pa sumasagot, you have 3 minutes to open the link and give your responses. I really encourage you to participate because this is really a student-led discussion. I would like to see what goes on in your mind. I would like to see how how you respond to these kinds of questions, especially the ones that challenge you into thinking about this very controversial topic. Natutuwa ako. Ang daming sumasagot. Naaaliw ang aking mata. All right, I'm gonna give you one last minute to finish your responses. And to those who haven't responded, keep on typing your responses. At kung hindi man kayo matapos, it's okay. It's all right. Just finish your responses, and that's fine. Okay. Sa mga hindi pa tapos, mag-type. Type lang kayo ha, and we will be discussing. It's really eye-opening to see a lot of responses in the Padlet. And just for the sake of time, I will be asking people to volunteer to give an explanation or a little bit of explanation with what they have responded in this Padlet. Do I have a volunteer? Or can I call out? Merong isang respond dito. Me po. PZ Maliwat. Hello?
Hello po. Ako po si Pat.
Hello. Hi, Pat. Pat Maliwat. Okay.
Yes.
Can you let us know your response to this? In your opinion, why you think the SMs and PMs are the ones to draft the safety guidelines?
I was the one who wrote because the PMs and SMs know the in and outs of the theater.
Okay.
So, yung sa akin po, kaya ko po yan sinulat kasi based from experience, nakikita ko po yung mga PM and SM, nakikita nila yung both artistic and management side when there's a production. So, in that sense, nakikita nila kung ano ba yung mga dapat mine-maintain sa loob ng isang production or sa loob ng theater, and at the same time, ano pa ba yung dapat i-improve. And from what happened here in the pandemic, maraming lumabas din na problems from what the theater used to be. So I think when we come back, sila yung talagang makakapagsabi kung ano ba yung mga dapat ayusin to further improve the theater.
Well done, Pat. Napakahusay ng sagot mo. Maraming salamat. Actually, sa webinar na inattendan ko, no, nakakatuwa kasi unang-una sa lahat, napaka-diverse when it comes to experiences in theater as SM and PM at saka sa edad ng mga attendees. Sobrang yung iba talaga ang babata pa at natutuwa ako kasi nagkaroon ako ng hope na ang mga gagawa talaga ng pagbabago sa teatro sa susunod na panahon ay mga kabataan. Mga ganyang edaran nyo. Kaya nakakatuwa na sabihin mo, Pat, na totoo. Kaya PM and SM ang magda-draft ng safety guidelines kasi sila yung nasa loob. Sila yung nakakakita kung ano talaga ang nangyayari. Sabi nga dun sa webinar, pwede naman na ang mag-draft ay company manager. Pwede naman ang mag-draft ay technical director. Pero, sino ba yung nasa loob? Sino ang nakakakita ng lahat? Kundi SM and PM. Saklaw nila yan eh. That's their turf. So sila dapat ang mag-draft niyan. At nakakatuwa na sila yung na-empower kasi sa totoo lang, when I was still studying, no, iba kasi ang stigma sa SM and PM. Lalo na pagka nagsisimula ka pa lang or nag-aaral ka pa lang. Parang kahit na ikaw ang SM, parang you're still subjected to a lot of voices, ika nga. Pero hindi naman laging dapat ganun eh. Kasi may boses ang SM and PM. At yung boses na yan, lalo na sa panahon ngayon, ay napaka-importante na marinig. Kasi sa kanila manggagaling yung directive. Anyone else who would like to share? Siguro isa pa. Meron bang magvo-volunteer? Or magtatawag ako? Siguro, for the sake of time, I would like to see this response. The production manager is the one responsible for the logistics. Anonymous kasi. So, kung sino man ang nagsulat nito, nandyan ka ba?
Hi. Hello po, ma'am.
Hello.
Good afternoon po. Ako po si Ravelin. So, kaya ako po nasabi na the production manager is the responsible for the logistics while the stage manager is responsible for dealing with the artistic team. Kasi po, dahil nga kay parang both sides, parang kunyari po si production manager po, siya po yung assign po para mag-manage po ng tao or parang maglakad po ng mga papers po. Tapos po yung stage manager po, assigned po siya dun sa mga actors and directors. Parang both sides po para masasaklaw po niya lahat po ng mga kailangan makausap po if ever po may mga updates po regarding safety precautions po. So ayun po, kaya ko po nasabi na para na yun po yung designation po nila, kaya po sila responsible for that po. Ayun po.
Thank you, Ravelin, sa iyong response. Totoo yan. Kumbaga, tuhog na eh. Kasi may PM ka, may SM ka, one that knows backstage really well and how to handle the performances, and one that can coordinate what's happening backstage to the company. So, mainam talaga na PM and SM ang mag-draft ng safe pandemic response. Now, moving on to our lecture, I have shared with you Hale Center Theater's safety guide regarding COVID-19. Ito yung shinare sa amin during the webinar ng SM Association. And ito, yung sinasabi ko na parang na sample that you can refer to kasi SM and PMs are the ones who drafted this. Okay? So, in reading this, let me just remind you that there is no perfect guide. So kahit na-draft ito and it seems really okay and good to go, there is no perfect guide. And even Hale Center Theater said that their guide is not perfect as of now. And you have to understand the risk na pag nagkaroon ng reopening, hindi naman natatapos ang pandemic in an instant. So, kailangan maintindihan ng mga tao na kung sakaling magkaroon ng safe reopening sa Philippine theater, meron talagang risk na kailangan nating i-take. But then, even though there are risks, we also have to be solution-oriented kasi hindi naman pwedeng stop na lang lahat ng gagawin natin. Life is moving on even if there's pandemic. Now, we have to be open with solutions. Ano ang pwede natin gawin? And this one, I think, is one of the challenges that is going to be posed if ma-impose siya when there is a safe opening, no? Commitment to compliance. Kailangan lahat sumunod. Kasi hindi naman pwede na papasok ka into, say, one theater company and they have this guideline already. Pagdating mo doon, hindi ka naman susunod sa kung ano man ang meron sila. There is commitment to compliance. And then, we also have to take note that we have to respond flexibly to changing circumstances. Kaya hindi siya perfect guide kasi nagbabago rin ang panahon. Every day merong updates. Every day nagkakaroon ng balita about what is happening regarding the pandemic, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, but in the world. So, kailangan maging flexible tayo kasi magbabago at magbabago yan. Okay. Now, those who have read the Hale Center Theater Safety Guidelines, what were some wonderings that you had? And kung hindi nyo man ito nabasa, just think of this premise, no? That there are theaters in the other side of the world na nag-open na nagre-rehearse na sila. Now, what would be your thinking about that? So I would like to take you on another Padlet link. Gusto kong i-push pa ang pag-iisip nyo. Kung sakasakali na maiisip nyo, kasi sa Pilipinas wala walang rehearsal, walang performance, no? Pero sa kabilang dako ng mundo, meron nang nagre-rehearse, meron na ring nagpo-perform. Ano ang maiisip nyo? What would be your wonderings on that? You can answer a question, you can put a reaction, or you can give your thoughts about that. And I would like for you to be as honest as possible. Oo, alam nyo ako rin. Gusto ko rin isipin na sana all. Oo, sana all talaga. Oo nga pala, if you have questions for me and we are on an ongoing lecture, pwede kayong mag-type sa chat box and we will address that later on during the Q&A. Okay? Ayoko lang na ma-interrupt yung thoughts nyo. So, kung may mga questions kayo for me, just type it in the chat box and we will answer that later on. Okay, just for the sake of time, you have a minute and a half to give your responses. And then we will do a little bit of synthesis on this after. Alam nyo, kaisa nyo ko sa thoughts. It's a very long process. Naiintindihan ko yan. Even though I've been out of the Philippines for 11 years, I'm still caught up with the news of what's happening in the Philippines. No? Totoo. Totoo, mahaba at malaking usapin siya para sa atin sa Pilipinas. Oo, Bea, naiintindihan ko. Mahirap talaga siya ma-imagine sa bansa natin. Especially that we don't have enough support from the government, no? All right. If you are not yet done with your responses, just keep on typing. And just for the sake of time, we will do a little bit of synthesis on what you have written in this Padlet. Keep your responses coming. We will try to get to them, but we can do the synthesis now. So I'll start with the question, no? Paano? So itong Hale Center Theater, nagkaroon sila ng draft on the safety guidelines. If hindi nyo pa siya nababasa, I hope that you'll be able to read this. Kasi merong mga ilang aspeto na I think pwede naman na i-apply sa Philippine context, no? Ito rin, masasagot yung tanong mo na, are there ways for us to do what they are doing? Meron, posible. Ngayon, kayo bilang mag-aaral ng sining panteatro at nasa programang ito, nasa sa inyo na yan, kung papaano at ano ang pwedeng magawa. Okay? Posible po kayang magstay na lang ang buong team sa isang lugar hanggang matapos ang ginagawang play. Meron akong sagot dyan later regarding doon sa safety guidelines ng Hale Center Theater at magkakaroon pa tayo ng mas malalim na usapan dyan later on kasi I'm sure hindi lahat mag-a-agree. Okay? Safety first, totoo ito. Kailangan talaga unahin muna ang safety natin. Lalo't-lalo na may nagsulat ng ito, wear frontliners. Totoo yan. Kung matutuloy ang safe reopening ng theater, papaano natin mapoprotektahan ang ating mga artista? Kasi magiging frontliners ang SMs and PMs dito. Sinong magte-take ng temperature nila? Sino ang magta-track kung sakasakali? Ang contact tracing, paano? SMPM lahat yan. Sino ang may direct contact sa mga artista? Sa lahat ng staff, kung hindi SM and PM. And yes, it will be a test of patience and discipline. All right? So I'm really happy. I'm really happy with your responses, and I like this positive note that you are excited to see Philippine theater to evolve. Lahat tayo mag-evolve because there's no other choice. All right? So let's just go back to the lecture for today. Now, I will just share with you what were some of the solutions from what I have gathered from the webinar that I have attended, there are different situations, so there will be different solutions. One is, may nakapagsabi dun sa webinar na ano ba ang thought natin kapag nagkaroon ng safe reopening? There will be additional budget and manpower for sanitation and single-use tech gadgets, lalo na yung mic. So, kung sakasakali na meron kang, say, 10 artista, no? Lahat sila dapat may kanya-kanyang mic. Hindi na posible yung hiraman. Lalo na kung magta-traffic ka ng mic, walang oras kasi isa-sanitize mo pa isa-isa yon. So, when sanitation comes in, may iba sa kanila na nagsabi na dapat merong additional na tao na gagawa the sanitation alone, and meron din dapat additional budget para sa sanitation kasi hindi lang ito yung simpleng punas-punas at paggamit ng alcohol and all that. Kailangan in other states there are a specific I would say chemical grade na dapat gamitin to sanitize, that is COVID-19 approved. And then everyone employed in the production are subjected to self-quarantine. Ito na yon, yung question kanina, na sana pwede ba na magstay na lang sa isang place. Ngayon, may isang theater company na nag-attend ng webinar. Sa kanila, ang ginagawa nila, pag ikaw natanggap ka doon sa production, you are subjected to do a self-quarantine. So, ibig sabihin, artista ka, staff ka, bahay, teatro. Yun lang ang pupuntahan mo. Now, ngayon, nagtanong din kami, so how do you monitor your actors kung talagang ginagawa ba nila yon? Wala, of course, wala silang kumbaga concrete na way to monitor, no? Kumbaga nagre-rely na lang sila sa honesty. Pero nasa kontrata nila yon na dapat mag-self-quarantine yung kasama sa produksyon. May iba naman na nag-limit talaga sila ng production. Small scale na lang. Kumbaga, 2 artista, monologue, ganyan, or less than 10. Kasama na ang staff. Para hindi ganoon kalaki yung minomonitor nila at kino-contact trace. Of course, lahat ng meetings, lahat ng rehearsals, ng shows and cast parties, naging virtual na. Ito nakakatuwa lang kasi naging practice din natin ng meet and greet with actors. So may ibang theater companies ang ginagawa nila, virtual na ang meet and greet with actors. So sa labas ng theater nila, merong QR code doon na pwede silang mag-send ng shout out for the crew and the actors. Nakakatuwa lang, di ba? And then, sorry. Na-skip ko to. Okay. And the last bit would be, kamusta naman? Sorry. Ayan. Ito. Yung last bit. The resurgence of alternative rehearsal and performance spaces. Ito yung pinaka-importante na nag-surface dun sa webinar na inattendan ko. Na ang daming alternatives na nagawa. Dahil out of options na, no? So dahil there is an emergent need for urgency, nagkaroon ng resurgence. Now, what is resurgence? From the definition of the word, it's a revival. What can we do again? Ano ang pwede nating balikan na nagawa noon? Kasi itong pandemic, hindi naman ito yung first pandemic that hit the world. So, may mga articles na lumabas on how how other countries surpass such crisis and outbreaks and what they have done. Kasi minsan, sa totoo lang naman, imbis na mag-discover tayo ng mga panibagong gawain, baka naman meron tayong pwedeng balikan. So there is a resurgence. Ika nga. So what are these resurgence of alternatives, no? What possibilities can we explore? What can we review that we already have? And what systems do we have in place? So I will be sharing with you some articles and some of the solutions of these resurgences. Okay, so if you want to read the whole article, I've already hyperlinked it in this PowerPoint. On your free time, feel free to browse it so that you would know how other countries are dealing with this. Okay. Now this one, there is a resurgence of outdoor performance venues. Ngayon, dahil nga meron tayong ino-observe na social distancing, nagkaroon ng push for some set designers and also for theater companies to go back to the outdoors. Dahil mas malawak na space yon, no? Siyempre, problema dyan, ang weather, ang klima, ang ulan, pero at least meron tayong another option. So this is a set design by S. Devlin for the Production Carmen in Austria. Tapos meron din, actually dun sa webinar na inattendan ko, most of them, ginagawa nila yung rehearsal nila sa park. So biruin mo yon, magdadala sila lahat ng props nila, lahat ng set pieces nila, isa-set up nila sa isang drive-in park or sa isang outdoor park at doon sila magre-rehearse at araw-araw yan i-impake, i-strike at i-set up. Talagang mas madugi. Pero at least nagkakaroon tayo ng ibang options ngayon. Another one, ito natuwa ako nung nakita ko kasi this is a production of View from the Bridge in Rogue Theater, Tucson, Texas. So nakikita nyo yung actors nakamask sila, no? And ito medyo napaisip ako kasi they are doing the performance while they have masks. So even when I was reading the article, ito naka-hyperlink siya. If you have the time, basahin nyo, naka-intrigue how they did it. Some of the actors even questioned themselves, is this a new style of performance? Or is this safe? Is this appropriate? Or is this even what we call theater? So this is something that's very interesting. And then there's another one, which is the virtual performances done by Tanghalang Pilipino and CCP in the Philippines, na nagbukas ng maraming options for live shows, no? I mean for virtual shows. Ngayon, does this define theater in a new light, taking out the live theater aspect, or is this a way to redefine theater now? Okay, just putting that out there. And then now this is a theater in Berlin, and as you can see, tinanggal na nila yung ibang chairs para ma-observe ang social distancing. However, yes, there's less audience in the physical space, pero when they perform, when the actors perform, nakatape naman siya online and for a subscription fee. So, nagkaroon din ng opportunity for wider audience viewership. Now, it's very important for you to find your purpose. Bakit ba natin to gagawin? Bakit ba kailangan nating isipin ang safety guidelines for reopening? So, I have another Padlet link for you, no? And I would like for you to answer one of these questions because I would like for you to find your purpose. Is virtual theater sustainable? Do we really have to create art at a time like this? Where do I stand in this pandemic crisis as a theater maker? With all these alternatives, are we still creating theater? And how do we uphold social empathy if we are challenged? So I'm gonna give you maybe, just for the sake of time, medyo isa-shorten ko siya. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes. Just answer one question. Out of all these five, I want you to find your own purpose in the event that there is a reopening. How and why would you want to create a safe pandemic response? Walang tama at maling sagot dito, ha? And answer it as honestly as possible. I would just like to put it out there na you, bilang mga estudyante ng Sining Pat Teatro at bilang mga future SMs and PMs, kayong magiging pioneer ng safe pandemic response na ito. Kayo ang magpo-propose kung papaano ba tayo makakaalpas ng safely dito sa pandemic crisis na ito. So, before you can even arrive to that, kailangan malinaw sa inyo bakit. You have to find your purpose. Nakakatuwa ang mga sagot nyo. All right. I am going to give you maybe a minute more to finalize your responses. And then we will have, again, a little bit of synthesis just to come together and see the responses that you have. And if you want to volunteer in sharing your answers, please do so. If not, then I may just ask some people to share their point of view in one of these questions that were posted. But I'm really happy that you are responding, and I hope that you will be able to find your purpose in developing the proposal that you will be doing in the future. Nako, napaka-controversial talaga ng tanong na to eh. Are we still creating theater? At magiging ang response dito talaga magiging hati yung iba, yes, we're still creating theater, yung iba naman hindi. Kasi sabi nga nila, there are 3 aspects of theater, no? There should be an actor, there's a stage, there's the audience. We are taking out 2 aspects as of now. Wala na yung physical stage. Wala na yung physical interaction with audience. So what is it now? 'Di ba? Pero, nandun pa rin yung aspeto na may nagpa-perform, na nanonood ka, na nagiging kaisa ka ng performance na yon kahit virtual siya. So, is it still theater? 'Di ba? Napaka-debatable talaga ng question na yan. Alright, so if you are still responding, that's okay. Continue. Just keep on responding. But for the sake of time, I will be asking for some people to share their responses with us. Meron bang magvo-volunteer? O magtatawag na lang ako? Sige. Itong nagsagot nito. Yes, because in times like these wherein a crisis is occurring, nandyan ka ba?
Hello po. Si Pat
Hello!
po ulit.
Ay, hi Pat. Okay, sige. Bigyan mo lang kami ng konting explanation. Do we really have to create art at a time like this?
Ayan. So, sinabi ko po na yes, we have to create art in a time like this. Pero talagang kinontextualize ko po siya sa theater wherein I think na yung main purpose ng theater talaga is to bring out stories and to tell stories. So, in times like these na nagkakaroon ng crisis, alam natin na nag-system siya from reasons kung bakit nangyari yung crisis na under tayo ngayon. So, I think yung theater, important pa rin siya i-continue and art in general in order to forward yung mga alam natin na reason kung bakit nga nagka-crisis and yung mga kwento na to para maging aware yung mga tao sa talagang nangyayari and makatulong siya na ma-forward kung ano ba dapat yung mga dapat nating itama para hindi na maulit yung mga gantong pangyayari.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Napakaganda ng sagot mo, no? Kasi sa totoo lang, may istorya na nangyayari. Maganda ba to o hindi maganda? Ayaw natin yung istorya o gusto ba natin to? Pero kailangan merong storyteller eh. Kailangan mabuo yung storya. Kailangan ma-reach out siya. So, napakaganda ng sagot ni Pat na dapat hindi tayo tumigil sa pagkukwento. Kasi kailangan malaman to ng susunod na henerasyon. So, dapat patuloy yung pagkukwento at paggawa sa kwento. Ito, with all these alternatives, are we still creating theater? Sino with a sad face? Nandyan ka ba?
Opo.
Hello?
Hello po.
Sige nga, i-share mo ng konti, ng bahagya. Bakit sa tingin mo hindi na teatro yung ginagawa natin?
Kasi po, iba pa rin po yung live, tapos yung may interaction po talaga yung actors and yung audience during the performance. Ngayon po kasi kapag digital, parang wala rin po siyang pinagkaiba sa films or sa movies. Yun po yung nag-serve separate sa theater and sa film. Yun po.
Oo. Alam mo, salamat sa response mo, no? Talagang, in this perspective, nagkakaroon talaga ng divide kung teatro pa ba yung ginagawa natin o hindi. And yun nga, tama ka, what separates what we are doing now from film? Kasi isang aspeto ng teatro ay yung live mo siyang napapanood. Pero, nasa ibang konteksto na tayo ngayon. May pandemic na nangyayari. So ano ang dapat natin gawin? Titigil ba tayo? Mag-e-evolve ba tayo? O magta-transform tayo? So, ang hirap sagutin yan as of now. Nakakatuwa itong mga responses nyo, but since we're pressed for time, tuloy tayo sa lecture natin. Ito na ngayon ang challenge sa inyo. mga estudyante. Dahil may pandemic, kung sakasakali na magkaroon ng opening, we believe that SMs and PMs should take the lead into drafting the pandemic response. Okay, the safe pandemic response. Now, I think meron kayong learning outcome. May project kayo on creating a proposal. Nasa sa inyo kung anong klase yon, kung what kind of proposal it may be, kung sa marketing side ba yan, kung sa publicity ba yan, kung sa performance ba yan, or creative side. Pero i-konteksto natin sa current pandemic situation na hinaharap natin. Papaano ito magiging safe, papaano ito magiging makatao, at papaano nito masasagot na teatro pa rin ang ginagawa natin. Okay? Now, as you make this proposal, ibabalik ko lang kung ano yung ginawa natin kanina and what we have learned from the safety guide that was drafted by Hale Center Theater. Isipin nyo na habang ginagawa nyo yung proposal, walang perfect guide na magbabago at magbabago din yan. Dahil nagtatransform ang panahon natin, that you should understand that there will be risks in what you are doing, but we have to be solution-oriented, and that we need to make sure that everybody has that commitment to compliance, and we need to respond flexibly because the circumstances are changing. So just remember these things as you write your proposals. Now, if you have questions for me in the future, you can email me at christine.rojas82@gmail.com. Marami akong oras ngayon, so masasagot ko yung tanong nyo. Now, as you draft your proposals, I would like to share with you this extension of learning. I have a video already hyperlinked in this slide. This is a video of Pioneer Playhouse in Dansville, Kentucky, and they are already doing a rehearsal, or they've already done their rehearsal for a show, and this rehearsal is during the COVID-19 time. So I would like for you to observe the rehearsal process, use this as a springboard in listing the things you need to consider in drafting your safety guide for live performances or events. And I think dahil 12:45 na, this is the time for Q&A. If you have any questions for me, you can use this QR code and just type the questions and I will be able to see them. Or if it's easier for you to do it in the chat box, I can also look at them and just type away your questions so that I can give you as much assistance and as much knowledge as I can possibly do. Okay, so I'll be waiting for your questions.
Salamat, Chynna, dun sa panimulang pagbabahagi. At ngayon, papasok na tayo sa Q&A. Huwag kayong mag-alala kung feeling ninyo mahirap mag-post ng question, lalo na dahil napaka-challenging ng pinag-uusapan nating subject ngayon at concern ngayon. Pero importante marinig yung boses ng mga estudyante, lalo na dahil kayo ang haharap sa ganitong new normal natin.
Oo, hindi alam ko hindi madali i-digest ito kasi lahat tayo nasa adjustment mode pa. Every day merong panibagong nangyayari, may panibagong feelings, may panibagong isipin, lahat may panibagong nangyayari, no? Pero kasi nandoon din tayo sa point na andito na eh. So anong gagawin natin? Yun nga the question is, are we going to stay stuck? Are we going to transform? Are we going to evolve? Or are we going to stop? So nasa atin yung sagot doon. And again, you as students of theater arts, supposedly to be future SMs and PMs, if there is a safe, if there is a reopening of the live performances in theater, no, how would you do it?
I think si Gary ay nagtaas ng kanyang kamay.
Sige, go. Go, go, go.
Hello po, good afternoon.
Hello,
Ayan po.
Gary.
Ano po kasi, ang dami kasing reading, so marami rin po akong mga na parang napaisip na bakit tayong mga artists, we're always finding ways how to survive this pandemic. Not really seeing na parang no, there's something, may problem talaga na hindi naman mismo sa atin yun, or bakit nga ba? Yun nga po. So the thing there is, ang tanong ko po sana is, paano ba natin talaga dapat maipapa-address yung yung dapat gawin? Kasi hindi lang sa theater to. I mean, it's an issue about government. Kasi nung sinalihan ko pong ibang webinars din po, yung ibang, kaya po nagre-resume yung mga ibang industry or yung mga theaters sa ibang bansa is because they have yung mga government nila is nafa-fund sila or may support sa kanila. Here in the Philippines, sa setup natin, they don't really, parang wala talagang, kung may support man, sobrang little. Pero wala talagang support sa mga, lalo na sa art. Like for example, they give funds sa mga sport, sa mga athletes para magkaroon ng medal. Tayo naman, we have actors na nanalo rin naman sa iba't ibang awards sa ibang bansa. Pero why are we not getting enough support? And bakit kailangan, bakit hindi yun yung parang i-challenge sa atin na instead of looking for another, I mean, part na yun, we look for, kasi I believe na theater will always survive. Hindi siya mamamatay. Kasi marami ng pandemic and plague na nangyari. And the question is when. Pero hindi natin malalaman ang when kung we still tolerate this injustices or this, I don't know, kung paano ba na, like, feeling ko kasi nakakulong na tayo forever eh. I mean, nakakulong na tayo ng matagal. So, siguro it's time na hindi lang tayo maghanap ng solution, but we need to parang, what can we do? I mean, yun po. Kasi kami, student pa lang naman. So, it's hard for us to fight, but we want to fight. Parang ganun. So, what can you help? Ayun po. Paano niyo po yun? Ang gagandang sasabi, sorry.
Oo, maganda yung tanong mo actually, Gary, and it's a very challenging question. So, teachers then in this group, you can also chime in so that we can give more perspective to the students, no. When you ask me, totoo naman yung sinabi mo, no, na in other states, in other countries, merong support kasi ang government, kaya nakaka-survive sila. Pero I would also like to point out na hindi lahat ng state suportado ng governors nila. And in those states, talagang the theater companies, sila na mismo ang nag-take into, they took the matter on their own hands para maka-move forward. Kasi hindi nila naman matanggap na wala na lang silang gagawin, ano. Although, sa ibang states, like say for example, sa Broadway nga, January 2021 pa sila mag-open. So, tigil trabaho talaga lahat. Wala talagang ginagawa lahat ng artists doon. And they're finding ways on how to survive, no. Ngayon, sa Philippine context naman, naiintindihan ko yung tanong mo and yung reaction mo na talagang mahirap kasi wala tayong nare-receive masyado na funding sa gobyerno, no. Pero ngayon, papaano tayo lalaban? Anong pwede nating gawin? Kung walang suporta ang gobyerno, kasi kung iisipin mo, no, hindi lang naman sa arts and theater walang support ang government, no. Sa maraming aspeto. Actually, kumbaga, sa nangyayari sa Pilipinas, no, parang kanya-kanya na nga tayong lahat eh. Kanya-kanyang diskarte na. So, itong usapin na to is just an opening for you guys to think how are you going to do it or to address it if the matter is given on you. Okay? Now, as much as I would like to give you a definite answer on how will the government help us, medyo hindi ko yata masasagot yung tanong na yan kasi masyadong malawak ang saklaw ng tanong um, at mahabang laban mahabang laban yan para sa Pilipinas. I guess siguro kung bawat artist or theater companies siguro magkakaroon ng palihan, magkakaisa kung papaano magkakaroon ng united voice to ask for more funding sa gobyerno, pero hanggat hindi naiintindihan ng nasa taas kung bakit kailangan i-uplift ang art sa ganitong panahon, medyo mahabang laban yan para sa Pilipinas.
Actually, China, parang gusto ko lang din susugan yung iyong sinabi. At saka yung mag-comment din dun sa tanong ni Gary. Kasi ang tanong ay, paano magbibigay ng solusyon ng gobyerno? Well, alam natin na walang ibinibigay na solusyon. Kung kaya nga, I think mas importante lalo ang medium o paggamit ng teatro para maisulong yung kinakailangan ng industriya natin at hindi lang industriya natin na dapat at ng buong lipunan sa gobyerno. Parang dati nung meron tayong mga challenges, kahit political challenges noon, ang go-to ng mga estudyante ay magpahayag at gamitin yung teatro. So ngayon, oo, it is challenging because it is unsafe para magsama-sama. Pero sabi mo nga, Gary, we find ways, di ba? We find ways para makapagpalabas. At siguro ito rin yung sabi kanina ni Pat ba yun? About creating awareness and using theater to bring stories forward.
Ay, hello po. And hello.
Yes, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Yan. So, yun po kasi, sobrang hindi ko lang kasi tanggap po na yung dito kasi sa setup namin dito sa Baguio. Pinayagan na po yung cinema. So, meron ng mga sine dito. So, operate na sila. The thing there is, ang dami po kasi ditong, kasi since Baguio, maraming indigenous performances dito. Like, sa may botanical garden, yung mga nagpe-perform po ng mga kanya o ganun. Hindi pa rin napapayagan yung mga ganun. Pero napapayagan itong mga big industries to operate. And that's what I think is so unfair. Na parang, yun po, bakit pag wala kang maibigay na pera, something ganun. So, sobrang unfair naman po ako. Pero gets ko naman pa. Yun lang po, napapansin ko lang po talaga dito.
Oo. Kahit naman ako, kung siguro nasa kalagayan mo, no, ako kaisa rin ako sa reaction mo. Kasi ang unfair nga naman yun kasi kung lahat ng medium of entertainment bibigyan mo ng pagkakataon na makapag-open, bakit may pili? 'Di ba? Lahat naman yan medium of entertainment bakit pili lang yung pwede? Kung magiging safe naman ang kanilang response to the pandemic, meron silang guideline, bakit hindi payagan? Bakit isang form of entertainment lang ang pwede? So I hope na magkaroon ng pagbabago diyan sa Baguio. And maybe that is part of your proposal, Gary, no? Baka nga mas maganda pa yan na gawin mong project. Mag-research ka diyan kung papaano mo matutulungan na magkaroon ng opportunity na makapag-perform muli ang mga indigenous performers in Baguio.
Thank you po.
Siguro huling katanungan na lang. Kasi 5 minuto na lang meron tayo. O 4 na minuto. Meron pa bang gusto magtanong?
Meron ka ba?
Meron bang respond dun sa slido.com?
Walis. Kasi makikita ko yun eh.
I think it's also kaya rin may silence, I think, China. Because it's something that's very hard to answer. And it's
Oo
all very
naman.
immediate and apparent for all of us.
Yeah, it's a very challenging topic and question. That's also the reason why open ko rin sa inyo students, no. While I was doing this lecture, I also told your professors na I hope na hindi kayo ma-intimidate sa mga questions, because this topic really forces us to be morally challenged, emotionally challenged, and mentally challenged, kasi ang bigat na usapin, kasi para kang nag-hit ng wall dahil wala ka pang alam na solusyon sa ngayon. Pero kailangan natin siyang pag-usapan kasi hindi naman, kumbaga, nagmo-move ang buhay natin while there is pandemic. So kailangan nating sumabay dun sa alon eh. Ayaw man natin siyang harapin kasi para kang nag-hit ng wall dahil parang wala kang alam na sagot sa ngayon, pero we have to. It's a matter of really a push and pull challenge to all of us. Hindi madali ito. Naiintindihan ko kayo. So, I hope that with this discussion and with this lecture, you will be able to find ways to create your proposals in a way that it will be just beyond paper. And what do I mean by that? I hope that it will be relevant to what is happening right now, that it may help you understand the purpose that you had a while ago. Ay, may question si Christian. Sige. Christian, anong question mo? Hello, Christian.
Maaari po bang gagawa po ng teatro. Tapos imbis kasi 'di ba, example na lang po, if magpe-play tapos example po yung Nana Rossa. Then yung Nana imbis na yung camera yung sa video po, imbis na magla-live performance, papapunta yung mga audience doon para manood. Posible po kayang ilapit na lang yung video cam para mas detailed, mas makita yung performance sa stage. Kasi ito po, base po sa mga nakikita ko na mga archive videos, parang nawawala yung quality ng kasi malayo, zino-zoom hanggang sa parang ang labo ng tignan, hindi na siya appealing para sa mga manonood. Then dagdag po dun sa sa tanong ko na pwede po bang parang suggestion, I think, na babayaran na lang yung play na yun sa ticket.me, yun, mga ganun po. Okay po.
Actually, hello Christian, thank you sa iyong tanong. Actually, alam mo, with regards to the ticketing, no, marami na rin gumagawa niyan na may parang pay-per-view or subscription na online ticketing, tapos babayaran nila, magbabayad online, and that reserves as their stub to be able to watch that production online. Ngayon, share ko lang din, meron akong napanood na play sa National Theater Live, no. Nakalimutan ko lang kung ano yung title nun eh. Pero ang nakakatuwa kasi, pinapakita doon na vini-video yung mga actors while they are performing. Hindi tinatago yung camera. So maybe I think that is something that we can explore, no? Kasi totoo yung sinasabi mo, minsan pag sino-zoom in, ang labo, hindi mo na makita masyado. Ano ba 'yon? 'Di ba? Pero ito kasi ang naging feeling ko noon habang nakikita ko na may nagvi-video doon sa eksena na 'yon, parang naging kaisa ako nung eksena na 'yon. Parang andun din ako, parang nakikisilip din ako, parang buhay siya in front of me. So it's another layer, it's another aspect, and maybe that is something that is worthwhile exploring. It's not a bad idea to explore, you know.
Yun nga
So
po.
salamat.
Opo,
Salamat
yun po
dyan
yung
sa
iniisip
question
ko
mo
na.
na yan, Christian.
Kasi di ba nga, since safety first po, syempre,
Mm.
mo rin yung kaligtasan ng audience. So, kasi
Mm-mm.
kasi mismo sa production din, kahit may mga guidelines, though, ang ganda nga po ng yung sa guidelines ng HCP po ba yun?
Mm-hmm.
Guidelines nun, ang ganda po sobrang detailed hanggang sa
Oo.
performers, backstage, etc. Nakita ko yung talagang gusto nila maging ligtas lahat. Ang
Oo.
habang binabasa ko po yun, parang mahirap pa rin makita kung paano yung audience mo, ano pala siya, parang sabihin na lang po natin na asymptomatic. So, hindi paano kung lahat ng audience ay magkaroon bigla. Yung ganon,
Tama.
hindi naman po natin alam kung paano natin matitrace yung gantong ano. Yan.
Yang mga ganyang brainstorming ang kailangan natin sa panahon na ito, no? Kasi although yun nga, sinasabi ko nga na although nandyan may safety guidelines na draft ang Hale, tingnan natin din kung papaano siya magiging epektibo o magiging relative sa Philippine context. And I'm glad that you were able to share that thought with us, Christian, kasi nung nabasa mo siya, nakita mo na, uy, okay to, talagang detalyado, they really wanted everybody to be safe. Pero papaano ko to titingnan sa lente ng artista sa Pilipinas? So that is the kind of angling that I and we think that you students should have. Even though you have a reference like that from Hale, how do you make it relevant to the Philippine context in terms of the crisis that you have right now and to the situation that you are in? And when we say Philippines, hindi lang siya Manila area. Like yung kanina si Gary sa Baguio, paano mo titingnan yun sa konteksto ng nangyayari ng performances sa isang specific na lugar? Okay? So yun, natutuwa ako sa inyo. Maraming salamat. Sana mahaba pa yung oras natin, no? Nakakatuwang mag-brainstorm sa panahon na ito. Kung meron kayong mga questions pa at hindi siya makaabot dito sa chat box ng Zoom, pwede nyo akong i-message sa email. Alright? Pero sobrang nag-enjoy ako sa inyo at sobrang salamat. So I hope na marami kayong natutunan. I hope na hindi dito magtapos ang laban kahit na alam natin that we're hitting a very big wall right now. This is the time for us to be storytellers and to be artists kahit mahirap. Because that's our social responsibility.
Maraming salamat, Chynna. Maraming salamat dun sa paghamon mo, pagbigay mo ng creative na challenge sa mga estudyante ng UP ngayon para tumugon dun sa immediate nilang concerns at immediate nilang environment at makikita nila kung ano relevant sila at yung kanilang aral at ang kanilang ginagawa para makahanap ng mga solusyon. Sabi mo nga, maging solution-oriented. At sabi mo nga kanina, maging agile at adaptive dahil wala namang perfect guide, sabi mo, di ba? Kung kaya't sila mismo, pwede silang mag-contribute para i-discover yon. So, thank you for that. At nais rin naming magpasalamat sa Cal Bahaginan, sa DSCTA, sa UP Diliman para gawin itong posible at maraming salamat, Chynna, sa pagpapaunlak sa aming imbitasyon.
Thank you din. Sobrang natuwa ako sa lahat ng mga estudyante na alam ko sobrang challenge ang technology for all of us, pero heto tayo ngayon. We are in this discussion. I'm really, really thankful for this opportunity. Salamat sa inyong lahat.
Salamat sa lahat ng dumalo.
Thank you.
Salamat po.
Another project has ended, but it is with pride that this brown bag online forum on emergency theater and performance was realized, and many of you were able to attend it. This forum, which focuses on possibilities and problems of theater and performance in this time of the pandemic, tackled a wide range of issues, and we are thankful to the speakers who shared their valuable knowledge and experience. From new and emergent performance forms and ways of exploring possibilities of online and digital modalities, especially on the learning and teaching of theater and performance, onto the state of artist welfare during this global health crisis. The topics opened windows of possibilities and opportunities. They enrich our knowledge on issues in theater and performance in this time of COVID. One of the sectors in the society that has been heavily impacted by this pandemic is the theater and entertainment industry. So this forum is very relevant and timely to reflect on how these matters are being dealt with and to give us insights on how to stay afloat despite the huge challenges that we have to face. I thank all the speakers who generously shared their valuable knowledge and experience on the various topics that were shared on this forum. I will give a special shout out to my former student, Mr. Robert Arlo de Guzman. Thanks, Arlo, for joining this very important activity. And most of all, I thank the organizers of the forum, our ever-energetic and hardworking faculty of the Theater Division of the Department of Speech, Communication, and Theater Arts, led by Assistant Professor Olivia Nieto. We're also grateful to the UP Diliman Office for Initiatives in Culture and the Arts, or OICA, for their support in this project. I hope that the knowledge gained and the valuable lessons learned from these lectures will help us navigate during these difficult times. May we overcome this with hope in our hearts and trusting that this too shall pass. Mabuhay kayo.